different here. We don't just get up for another day. We rise. We don't just work. We endeavor. We're women and men for and with others. We have hope, we believe, and we celebrate. Why are we different?
So we can be the difference.
At Villanova, we believe in community and in ourselves. We create, adapt, discover. And when confronted by uncertainty, we don't stand idly by. We never have. We get involved, lead by example, even when things are tough. Especially when things are tough. We take action because Villanovans are like that. Stronger together. Ignite change. Go Nova.
What is going on, all you gamers, goblins, and goofballs, and welcome back to EGFC Overwatch. I am Sepulence, joined by Twin Salty, and we have, unfortunately, only 2 series today, but we are hoping they are going to be good ones, starting things strong with Marquette University versus Villanova.
And it should be, I think it should be a closer match. Marquette 0-8, Villanova 2-6, and I will say there's an asterisk there. Both were forfeit wins. One versus Colorado, who is no longer around. One versus DePaul. So they're really battling for their first 2 wins this season. And
that's not where you want to be in a spot like this, Salty.
No.
It's tough to find yourself, but like you said, on the bright side, somebody walks away with a true win here. And something interesting that we see kind of in the lower echelon of teams is we'll often see compositions or characters we might not see in the uppers. So I'm excited to see what will be happening from that. I do know that as the week moves on, so does the map pool. And we'll be looking at a couple of new maps this week. I'll be honest, this one hits a little less than last week's did to me, but we still got some bangers. Lijiang per the usual, Paraíso, New Queen Street, Shambali, and Nepal. So we've got 2 great maps and 3 in the middle, Salty.
You got Lijiang, that's one of the best maps in the game, you would argue. I would say New Queen Street's at least one of the better push maps.
I can agree.
Paraíso is just a weird map because it's almost like Watch Point on steroids at times, with like how much high ground there is and how much you have to play around it. So I'm kind of curious to see how teams adjust to that. And not to mention, we had the beginning of a Season 3 balance patch hit 2 days ago.
Yes.
Where I don't think it changed a drastic amount in the meta, but I think it changed a lot of the outside meta comps at least being playable.
Yeah, I think you're wholeheartedly correct on that, Salty. I think we're looking at it's no longer about running exactly this team composition, exactly this character to work. I think that does stand for the supports. I think we will be seeing exclusively Lucio Kiri. Anything outside of that is a unique and individual pick. But the tank line shaken up a lot more. My man Ryan, for the first time in what feels like infinity, isn't a throw pick. Wrecking Ball gets the most buffs out of anybody this patch, and he's ready to make his appearance. But Orisa and Ram hardly touched it all. Ram's Annihilation ultimate caps out at 20 seconds. I don't know if I've ever even seen it go to 20 pre-nerf, so can hardly call that a nerf. But the tank line can definitely shake up, and Lijiang Tower, one of Ryan's best maps even before this buff. So hopefully we do get to see a little bit of him today.
Yeah, especially if we get Control Center, you know, like that is his playground. Like, you
Junk.
can maybe see him on Night Market. I don't think we'll see him on Gardens. But if we get Control Center early on, there is definitely a chance to see some of the, you know, the old wacky comps, like the Symmetra. Maybe not the Junkrat anymore, because he got nerfed pretty good. And I know that's probably it's probably sad for you.
It's not as bad as I thought, to be honest. Yeah. I've been playing the last few days, and he's still playable, but he was already fighting for his spot kind of in the meta, right? So that small nerf, the direct impact damage of his mind being reduced by 20 is surprisingly painful in a lot of ways. You know, the radius has closed in and yada yada. So I think you're right. I think in lieu of Junkrat, we could be seeing back to Sojourn. I've seen a lot of May recently around the diamond mark of this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Symmetra, like you mentioned. This is a map that works really well for her. All 3 stages have great places for Sim to find her spotlight, and Overwatch 2 in a really unique spot right now where the supports are kind of locked in, but both DPS and tank have a little wiggle room. They have a little versatility to bring out some characters we might not normally see.
And obviously with the support line thing, like if you play Circuit, okay, Bap Zen's still going to be good. Because that's only because Sig's good there. But I'll say for like 90% of the time, you're going to see Kiriko and Lucio. If you're running like a Ball or a Winston, maybe you run the Ana with Kiriko instead. But that'd be like one of the only things I could see. Or Ryan as well. That'd be the only time, like, maybe we can see some Ana at least getting played. Weirdly enough, Ana Brig has been being played a lot.
I saw that 3 times in comp today, actually.
Yeah, which I wasn't entirely sure that that was actually going to come in, but I think it's at least playable. But I think it's definitely hard to actually get that top value when Lucio Kiriko is just a lot easier. But as we go over to Gardens, we'll see what everybody's trying to think of. And we do have a Wrecking Ball sighting already.
Yeah, Wrecking Ball is online for just a moment here. Villanova running the Reinhardt. Gonna be in for a bad time, unfortunately. Trying to run Rein into Wrecking Ball can be difficult, especially with a Pharmercy on the other side. This is one of those stages where Pharmercy can definitely work well for a team if they run it right. Marquette wants to do that. I think you mentioned they were 0-8. Definitely looking out for that win. Villanova, we actually saw them last week. Now that I'm looking at that roster, I'm like, okay, they do look familiar, I believe. And they definitely want to find a win as well. Soldier Cass versus Pharah Sojourn. So at least the Pharah might be a little difficult to work with. Stomps is going to whiff the rollout. Not able to find an Elim, but Axehand will right behind. Goodbye, Vandergaard offline early. And with a 5-4 advantage, Marquette going to take as much space as they can gain. Uh-oh, Stomps is gone though, and Villanova ready to hold that out W key against him.
Yeah, especially, you know, the sleep dart as well that can be used to counter out. The sticky nade as well from Nate the Cat. Seems like Marquette they have just nobody's on point quite yet. It gives Villanova time to rotate around and have another fight.
Ooh, Accent takes down Happy Sparrow. Stomps gets a good knock into sight. Eats the sleep dart early and has plenty of adaptive shields to live with. Twin, the first Mercy we're seeing after the Mercy nerfs, turning her into a lot more of a heal bot, but the healing working well for Marquette. They're keeping their numbers, they're finding the eliminations they need, and they are looking good to win out fight number 1 here against Villanova. Point not capped, but Marquette not worried. Axehand dominating Villanova in this current matchup.
Feeling very good about themselves. Even last week when Marquette played UConn, they looked decent. Like, they took a map off UConn, they looked very close in at least the first 3 maps. Map 4, you know, the less said, the better.
Yeah,
but I think for an 0-8 team, their confidence is actually in a really great spot. And a lot of it is, I think, having Stomps now stick on this tank and not having the role swaps could help later on this series.
Yeah, definitely keeping the team on the rolls that they start with. Oh, gonna whiff that rollout, unfortunately. Not able to find the lineup. Almost takes themselves off the map. There's a very easy way to get stuck underneath that right there on Wrecking Ball, and the only way out is back to the spawn room. So I'm glad Stomps did not roll off stage. Barrage, Minefield, and Overclock online for Marquette. Villanova, they make some swaps late. They've got a Nano to work with, and Myfris, with that Nano, it'll be like Hog never got nerfed.
Exactly. So much health and just the damage reduction, he will be an unkillable machine, but it doesn't matter when Axehand setting in the barrage.
Axehand's barrage only finds 1, and it's just a normal rocket that takes him down. Minefield, though, gonna work miracles. A 5-piece, a team kill against Villanova University and Marquette. 2 ultimates for a single fight win, 60% on the board. You've got to be feeling good if you're them, Salty.
Oh, you have to be feeling good, especially last week, like, you couldn't get a lot of the close fights done. This time around, they're able to finish a lot of these fights very quickly. Do not let Villanova come back in these fights, even though Axehand is taken out. Does force the res from Squid.
Resurrection online, Axehand up and running. Villanova going to be pretty bummed about that just because you finally get an elimination and it's canceled immediately by that Pharah, who finds one of her own. Let's make it 3 with the help of Royal Ranger and Reach for no help. Overclock doesn't get the elimination, but it forces them into a corridor where the rest of Marquette rips Villanova to shreds. A very dominant performance so far, and if this is how the rest of this series is going to go, it might be a quick one.
This could be a very quick one if Marquette is able to keep rolling like this, but granted the Pharah... Oh, my mic is freaking out.
Salty's a robot.
Oh.
Just, yeah, like a stadium.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Welcome back, my man.
My audio source is VMix. Weird.
Crazy.
Okay. Apologies.
All good, not for long. Is there all fixed?
Ooh.
All good. Maybe Marquette's feeling a little better than us at the moment, but hey, we got it figured out, and that's what matters at the end of the day. A strong start for Marquette and Stomps. Gonna go ahead and equalize this Ryan v Ryan. I think it makes a lot of sense to do here. This is Control Center, the one we talked about. Ryan stomping grounds here, no pun intended on Stomps, but this is gonna be a fascinating matchup unless Villanova sticks to the Hog, which in itself would be fascinating.
Now they're teasing the Sigma. I think that could actually at least semi-work if they're trying to play more of a poke and Axehand. Not even going to try and make the far work inside. Going that may play the, again, as you said earlier, we're seeing a lot more of
I love my girl May. I'm always glad when she makes an appearance in a matchup like this. Nate the Cat gonna stick to the Junkrat spam due to the fact that the grenades themselves didn't get nerfed. It's simply that mine that he has that's a lot harder to get eliminations with. Speaking of eliminations, Happy Sparrow skimming their teeth, takes it away, but has to leave Vandervaart to die. Charge gonna get appreciated and force out that bio nade. Axehand's wall falls a little short. Can't get the lineup and has to make a little bit of space. Axehand also has a May gold gun and also uses the firefighter skin, something we have in common. Very excited to see that. Villanova bullied off point. Marquette taking the lead once again.
But I wouldn't say it's as convincing this time around. Villanova at least have an opening to where I could see them fitting into this.
Sure.
As long as they can just punish Stomps for being a little over aggressive, as the shield already pretty low. Just like that, anti, force on the back up.
Bio online and forces out Reinhardt to hold S instead of W. They got an immortality field out as well, so Villanova knows they've got a bit of a go button here in terms of finding eliminations. But when your go button is immediately stomped out of Suzu to boot, drops the charge onto Nate the Cat and deep into the back line behind the shield, still able to find one and counting, runs all the way over to the Mega. It hasn't gone down yet. Incredible peel from Marquette University to keep Stomps up and running. Oh, poor Vandervaart can't make it out either, and I'm amazed that Marquette not only won that, but in an incredibly dominant fashion.
And even Happy Sparrow landed a great Suzu as well. Denies the shatter. Everybody gets on up.
Yeah.
Too bad it's just the follow-up is there from everybody for the Golden Eagles, and now already 55% nearly for the Golden Eagles.
55% and counting. Marquette, another shatter, and he gets booped up, and it's worthless. Myfrist swaps out of the Rhine very late, overclocked, walled out by their own teammate. Axan does find the wall. Royal Ranger takes down one, and now could there be a turnaround? The Blizzard buys time, doesn't get any real freezes. I think touching the point is absolutely the win condition for the time being. 10 HP Axehand still standing, and oh my goodness, Stomps, I'm sure, furious. They weren't able to find the Elim onto Happy Sparrow. Team cleanup comes through. Marquette wins another one. 20 seconds left, but Salty, they threw it all out with the kitchen sink in that fight.
They try to throw everything in there just to make sure that they can get it to one fight territory. So if you're Villanova here, use 1 to 2 ults, save the rest so you can keep rotating them for that 0 to 99 comeback.
Don't call it a comeback if it's not ready yet. And Villanova University, they don't want to admit they need a comeback. 1 second, they've got to go in. They beat Suzu immediately out the gate. Not going to have it. The Shatter finds 2. Immortality Field can't do enough. Royal Ranger and Stomps are gone. And Villanova finally getting ready to put themselves onto a point. Not a 200-0 here, Salty. Villanova going to cap first.
They used everything, though. That's my only word. They used everything they had, which is great. That I think Shatter was the only one that I'm thinking they maybe didn't need. Or Tyra did not get much.
Tyra got nothing.
Death Blossom got what he needed to get done, but now Marquette have the door wide open if Stomp's gonna hit the Shatter.
Stomps 1 for 1 on Shatters right now, or I guess 2 for, no wait, what am I trying to say? 1 out of 2 Shatters have been successful. 1 did get blocked to do a great move from the Junkrat that knocked him up into the air and created an incredibly predictable moment. Here's one from Stomps now. Reach for no help falls. Shatter not able to find much. The Suzu was there to answer. Left shift in from Myfrist does leave the team unprotected in the back line, and Happy Sparrow goes down for it. Nade falls as well. Myfrist no cooldowns online, nothing in the pocket, and trying to run from an overclock. Nano from the Legend to keep them up and running. Still not going to be enough to farm. This team has collapsed on this Reinhardt, and Myfrist gets a lot of ult charge, but nowhere near the shatter necessary to make that sacrifice worth it. That is going to be a 2-0 victory for Marquette. Oh, not yet. Someone's touching insult to injury here, just delaying the inevitable. Goodbye, Kiriko. Goodbye, Reaper. Goodbye, Lijiang Tower. There we go. That final butt does come through, and Marquette will be able to find the 2-0 victory.
At least trying to carry over that momentum from last week. What a showing so far for Marquette. Axe hand play of the game, and I think they've settled in a little bit. They've at least realized, like, hey, maybe these patches actually kind of went toward their comfort picks a little bit more than we initially thought they would. And the far up play was exquisite. We could definitely see it again on Paiso here in map 2. Honestly, the rest of the map pool, we could see it. Maybe not as much Nepal just for the same reasons as Lijiang, but that's really about it. Like, you could run far the entire rest of the way. The only thing for Marquette, do not make any roster changes right now. I know last week, every single map there was a roster change. Please, you just smacked Villanova in that first map. I would not recommend it, but I think for Villanova, it's not the worst map for them. I think they at least showed a little bit like, hey, we're not fully out of this series. Lean into the Bastion play that we know you guys have. Lean into the Winston, especially on a map like this. Hey, it's just after Winston Wednesday. You never know. And I think the strengths for Villanova are still there. I think Marquette had definitely fallen into a meta, though, that they were not even expecting it to work this well.
I have to agree. The Pharah, like you mentioned, was phenomenal. But May worked out every single time it needed to. There was a lot of great value from Marquette in these weird off-kilter characters. We saw the Baptiste come out for a moment from Villanova. I'm not super fond on that. I think Baptiste is a little bit of a weird pick. But jumping into Paraíso, there's a lot of things you can do. Symmetra can still work here on defense. Orisa really likes this map. Winton, like you mentioned, he does as well. There's a lot of variables these teams need to take into consideration to try and find the highest possibility of success moving into the second half of this series. Can Villanova answer it early? Can they go for their own kind of, in quotes, off meta picks, or are they going to try to run it down against Marquette again and possibly lose that battle sooner than they expect?
Or even try and run their Ramatra. Like, he is still one of the most broken heroes in the game, and we did not see him for an entire map. That is very weird to me. And yes, his ultimate at least got nerfed a little bit, so it's not going to go on for minutes on end, but I still think he's definitely playable, especially third phase on this map. First and third, second phase gets a little funky with how much high ground is involved, but I'm curious to see what Villanova want to run here, as it just felt like no matter what they tried to do, Marquette was always the ones initiating the fight, always the one that got that first pick off. So if they can try and at least play a little faster, try and force a mistake out of Marquette, it could be the opening they need.
Without a doubt. And, we saw a pick from them one time back on stage number 1 that was immediately rezzed, and then I don't think we ever saw a first pick again. I think that was the only opportunity they had at a moment like that. It's all about trying to make the numbers crunch here, Salty, and Villanova want to crunch some numbers harder. It looks like Marquette will be taking a word of our advice. They're going to be sticking to the roles. The team comp itself is a little unconventional for my liking, but I think it makes sense for this initial high ground hold. Immortality Folk can be very helpful. Mercy can access all team members when she needs to, and the Sigma is weird, but I don't think it's bad by any means. Accretion is going to be the name of the game against this Reinhardt. Nate the Cat already gone, and Villanova University, no mercy to res that.
Yeah, I think this is more like, hey, I'm going to enable my DPS who are fragging right now with the Sigma play. Just give them their own personal shield. They have to push through this at some point already. Villanova trying to make some changes to help combat that. Myfrast already on the D.Va to try and eat some of that damage up, and also give it at least a little more pressure. But again, Legend 27 down, and they just have to kind of sit there and wait.
I like the D.Va pick. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I don't think you can eat Accretion on D.Va. I think there's a lot of kind of variables at play in which they aren't going to counter the Sigma appropriately. If you want to be making space like this, I think swapping to a Winston could work really well. I think swapping to an Orisa and running underneath the point, forcing them to turn around to you, is another great choice to make. But playing D.Va, running into the entire squad, frontlining against them, is not a play that's going to get you this point easy. Already over a minute off the clock, and things not looking the cleanest for Villanova on this primary attack. Marquette just abusing the uncontested high ground they have.
Yeah, I want to still up here as long as you guys don't push us. And so far,
straight up,
Villanova have not, and they're now just going to rush out a point. They do pick off stomps.
Squid is up and running, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them go for a res. I think I hear it, and I did. Stomps back up, but Royal Ranger down this time. Reach for no help, wants an elimination. Can't find it fast enough in the overclock. Does not make the space they wanted. Happy Sparrow, welcome back, my friend. Dominating the initial matchup in this third fight of Paraíso. Shield online. Gonna be a 5v1, stalling for every second they can, but this third point cap will finally come through. Third tick online, 4:38 on the clock, so I didn't like the D.Va to start off, but maybe Villanova knows something I don't.
I think it was more just a play call. Hey, let's just go underneath really fast. Force
Marquette
to drop, and I don't think the communication was initially there, but it's never going to be there for Marquette in that kind of situation for any team. It's like, oh, they're dropping, somebody needs to drop, go. And that time around it was Axie, and they get picked off, and it lets Villanova just slowly chip away at the rest of the fight.
Myfrast flies onto the card here, and I like the pile drive we're seeing from Stomps. Wrecking Ball can get a lot of great value on this site because the grapple can lock onto any of the buildings you see on screen right now. Now Wrecking Ball move very quickly like this, dislocating the opponents is a big name of the game. For Wrecking Ball to find levels of success, and as the team separates, scatters like flies, Villanova finds themselves down one once again. Nave's attack visor not online anytime soon, and that might be an ultimate they were going to need to clear space on this corner. However, going into this next fight, Salty, they're going to have literally the entire, almost the entire arsenal at hand.
Yeah, they should have dang near everything at their arsenal as soon as Happy Sparrow actually gets back, but granted, Marquette will too. The only thing they won't have right now is Reach for Now helps overclock. This could be just a lot of people pressing Q and praying.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's going to be a big problem here as well. As Villanova going to press Q 5 times and pray for the best. There's 2 already. Nano into overclock, a very common combination that we see. But here goes Bomb as well. There's another one down the drain. Down to only 2 ultimates. Marquette answers back with 2 of their own. Oh my goodness, window tack visor just melting the opposition right now. A 3-piece from Axe Hand. Villanova with those 3 at the wall, and they're damaged only by, oh, just kidding, 3 stomps. Drops the minefield as well. So both teams dumping most of their arsenal out. That's not a clean win for Marquette, but it's a consistent one, and they need every win they can take. They've burned almost half the time bank already.
Exactly. With 4.5 minutes, you have to take those fights. And yes, it's a 3-for-3 all trade, but you take it. And Axe Hand with the hot hand right now, taking advantage of those soldier buffs that came in just a few days ago with the recoil control.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's honestly such a difference.
I think so as well. I couldn't play soldier beforehand, and now I find myself pretty consistently rocking with the legs in a competitive match.
So far, Reach for No Help. It's weird because Reach for No Help last week was the one that we talked about a lot, and today it's been Axe Hand the one that's actually been doing a lot of the damage for the DPS line.
Yeah, we saw a lot of back and forth with Reach for No Help, and the DPS did great. We saw them on tank at one point. We weren't particularly fond of that, but hey, hindsight's 20/20, right? The past is in the past for a reason. So perhaps this team going to be looking for a little more value on the Sojourn. She didn't get touched at all. Very strong the way she's been since her release. Nerfed only a single time, and that wasn't enough to remove her from the fray. Royal Ranger takes down Mifris in a large delay. 2 minutes on the clock. That's about 3 full fights against Marquette University. Can they continue to stall this out? Stomps on the Wrecking Ball has made all the difference, keeping this team constantly unsure of what their next move should be.
And it's just the slight displacement that Marquette's DPS are taking advantage of. As soon as the pile drive comes through, Axe Hand and Reaching for No Help are looking at where that pile drive is going. Who's the DPS popped up? There you go. Pile drive up. Some shots go in. Forces out the not the Kitsune, the Suzu.
Stomps complete adaptive shields online, over 1,000 HP. Even that sleep dart's not going to be enough to take him down. Late visor from Nate the Cat, trying to make the space against Marquette, and the reach falls. Overclock offline. The space has been made, but only one elimination is not exactly what you want, especially considering nobody has been on cart that entire time, Salty.
Nobody was on it, so at least gives Marquette another opportunity. And yep, the window comes out, visor again, and this is just not good.
This is not where you want to find yourself at all if you're on the side of Villanova. You did everything right, but you forgot to leave somebody on the cart, so you get all that space, you get all those eliminations, and the cart barely moves an inch in that time. The stagger pick comes through onto Vandervaart. Reach gets the headshot. One Sojourn away from another. 42 seconds. They use sleep early. Can Stomps make it back out, or is this going to be a quick elimination against them? Nope, that's going to be an easy one. Gets the health pack online. The BAP farming his old Royal Ranger 11% off of that Wrecking Ball alone. With only one ultimate in hand, can Marquette hold off this final brigade?
A lot of the pressure will be on Reach for No Help for that to be the case. And Stomps again, causing the cast. Doesn't let Vandervaart even get their overclock off.
No overclock online quite yet. And as they go down, Vandervaart can't do a darn thing about it. I want to see a little bit of a change of action. I want to see a little bit of improvement coming out from the side of Villanova, but it feels like every time they get that close, Close is never going to cut it. Close only counting in horseshoes and hand grenades, and neither of those in the world of Overwatch. Villanova is going to be full held on that second point. At least a win condition has been set here, Salty. At least they've got something to look forward to diving into the second half.
They at least somewhat know, okay, this worked, but a lot of that did not. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The aggression when they took the one fight very fast over on first phase worked great. You know, you catch Marquette by surprise. They are a little bit disjointed when they jump off. You're able to pick off one, and you move on from there. But the rest of it, Marquette, I admit, played extremely well.
Yeah.
Just on top of the buildings. The only person that could really dive them was Mifras, and every time they did, the peel was there, and their mech was soon to fall. So a very great play call from Marquette to play that high ground. Just to let Stomps really just do their own thing.
Absolutely, gotta let them just do their own thing. Stomps being that Wrecking Ball, and Wrecking Ball really struggled when we swapped from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 because they were kind of that flank character where they got into the back line, where they became annoying, where the rest of the enemy team was looking at them, then you chose to strike. But the story definitely changed when we melted down to a single tank. It was difficult to play Wrecking Ball, to be hiding in that back line, because the second you did, you left your front line wide open and your team often got collapsed on. But with Wrecking Ball's survivability now and the speed that he brings to the table, it's a lot easier to live effective in both the front and back lines, almost in simultaneous, and that's what Stomps has been able to do right now. Been everywhere he needs to be every time he had to be, and helping Marquette keep a very dominant lead over Villanova. They're only just a couple of minutes away, probably 3 strong fight wins away from winning map 2 out already.
And I will say Nate the Cat spawned as the doors opened, so maybe just, yeah, a slight hesitancy to take a fight here for Villanova for a second, as their main counter for this pharmacy is just getting to the fight.
You definitely do not want to make that overextension. It can cost you a lot more than you realize in the moment, but Nate the Cat does make it into the fray early on. Reaches Farah. It's funny to see Axe Hand not on Farah. It's Reach this time who wants to bring it out, using the rooftops very expertly, making sure nobody is in the way. And with a double elim out the gate, not a poor thing in the world Myfers can do on their lonesome. They lost a lot of damage. Maybe you take down one for bragging rights, but in a 5v1, Diva, one of the largest hurt boxes in the game in that mech, there are a few places to run. It looks like she's not going to make it far.
No, she kind of jumped out of her mech, like, yeah, going back to spawn. And there's not much she could really do at that point, and Stomp's just having the time of their life back her. It seems like you force immortality field, you're able to get out. This point should be captured, and Reach for No Help already has full high ground control to assist their team. And Nate the Cat, it's just been a struggle for them to even deal with this Farah already. Yeah. And the fact that they have to deal with that on top of the pile drives coming from Stomps, it is just damage from all angles.
And the damage is going to probably quadruple here if they choose to pop the barrage. They want to take the soldier offline first, and you have to respect the play, but you gotta be careful in that same area as well, because you can catch some helix rockets early. I guess you don't have to worry about it when you remove the one throwing them from the equation. Oh, a very high barrage, but somehow it still gets value. No eat coming out from the side of Myfers either. Oh my goodness, Cassidy still living. Vandervaart refusing to go down. The supports keeping that Cassidy up and running, but when the supports go down, who's left to keep you alive? Unfortunately, it's a big bad nobody. Villanova University losing 2 players. The cart has not stopped moving this entire time, Salty. Oh, Nate can't make it out either. Marquette just seconds away from putting a nice little bow on top of Paraiso.
This is the Marquette that we saw during Kings Row last week. That came back from that massive comeback. And this is the Marquette we've been wanting to see all season. 2-0 so far in this series. And may I say, they are playing... This is their meta, right? This has to be their meta. Stomps looks incredibly comfortable. They're playing a great chaos comp, letting the DPS fry. And the flexibility as well. As you said, both can play the Farah, both can play the hit scan roll, and they both just, the peel is fantastic for the supports. Really don't have to worry about Stomps very much until they kind of roll on back, and at that point, okay, yeah, we'll heal you up a little bit for the extra ult charge, but it's not like they need to cover him 24/7. This is truly Marquette's meta that they have, I think, finally gelled into, and it's the perfect timing.
Without a doubt, they really need to find that opportunity to come in. They need to put some wins on the board. Stomps feeling great, being somehow everywhere every time they had to be, and making it so difficult for Villanova to do much of anything other than crumble beneath the hands of that wrecking ball over and over again. We're going to wait to hear from production if they want to throw to a break or if they want to just run it down, and running it down absolutely makes sense here. Usually when it's a 2-0, we go to map 3, but if it's a 1-1, we'll give them a break they need. I believe coming up next is New Queen Street. Well, Salty, you know, I'm not huge on this map personally, but I will say of the push maps in the game, this one easily makes top 3.
I see what you did there.
I'm not wrong, you know?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I will say this probably leans into what at least Villanova were trying to run a little bit more.
Sure.
I don't know if the ball works as great here, but can definitely still work. There's just not as much architecture to really like swing off of, especially as you said, like that second phase for Paraiso for Wrecking Ball is just ridiculous. There's so many buildings he can go around. There's so many different angles and sight lines and lanes. This time around is basically just where the bot would be going and a few little hallways. There is not very many rooms or alleyways for a ball to escape. So I'm kind of curious if they decide to run it. I don't blame them if they do because of how well it's been working so far.
Sure.
So at least if they start on it and it doesn't work, oh well, because it's been working ridiculously. So I wouldn't be surprised. And for Villanova, you need to stop the Farah in some way, shape, or form because it's coming. Like I think
you beat me to it. Yeah, this is a very strong Farah map. I think if you let her get value, even without a mercy pocket, there's so much natural architecture to play around in the skybox. And I think I agree with you. I don't know if I want to see Wrecking Ball, but I wouldn't hold it against them to play it either. Yeah, Villanova, they've got a strategy of their own, and it begins with an S and rhymes with Sombra. can only hack the same target once every 8 seconds, so that does not buy you the space or time it used to. The hack itself only lasts for 1 second, and then you have to wait, I believe, 8 seconds to hack that same target again. So it's an early pick. Maybe they're going to be going for a bit of like our recon strategy, but there's no way she translocates back into spawn, especially as we can see she does not have a translocator down. Axehand already first blood onto Nate the Cat. There goes Happy Sparrow as well, and the hack not going to do nearly enough. Oh no, don't do that. Yeah, see, no, that's the sign of an inexperienced Sombra right there. Does not have the translocator down before engaging in the combat. When you throw it, they see you throw it. They know where it's going to go, and they're going to track you down and kill you. You've got to have that thing down, probably near a health pack, before you run into the fray. Villanova lose fight 1 in a dominant fashion, in Marquette ready to clean sweep this if they can.
I don't mind Villanova to be like, hey, we're going to run the Sombra, try and hack the ball when they dive on in. The issue is, by the time they actually get the hack off, somebody's already dead. Every single time. They don't have the time to try and waste trying to set up for that engage. Vandervaart's call so far just has not worked, even though it's at least delaying the amount of time it takes for Marquette to try and get these engages off, but it's not eliminating the threat.
Yeah, not eliminating the threat at all. It's certainly a game of delaying the inevitable. For Marquette to have an overclock online in 70 seconds is absolutely absurd. And Reach not missing a shot so far, putting down 2 members. Let's make it 3, and maybe a clean even 4 if Stomps doesn't steal the elim, and it's Axehand who gets it away. They go for the health pack hack, but it's just not enough when you're boxed into a corner like that against 3 members of the opposing squad. Not even 2 minutes in, and Marquette University has not stopped moving this spot at all. Currently on track to set an EGF record.
Royal Rangers having the time of their life over there on the bot. Like, don't have to do anything, just kind of have to chill with the bot because they're winning the 4v5 up front.
Yep.
Minefield goes down, Vandervaart taken out, Immortality Field's gone. This has been a rough day of Overwatch for Villanova. We kind of knew going into this week there could be some 3-0s purely because teams are kind of adjusting to the meta still.
Yeah.
And I think Marquette, at least for them, their meta is very good so far, and they're already feeling very confident in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting ready to call it the Marquetta, you know what I mean? Like, it is feeling like the Marquette meta right now, and Villanova University 4 ultimates in the pocket. Marquette only a couple of their own, but as we've seen quite a few times, these ults might not be enough to make the space. Nano out. There goes Flux. Here comes EMP. It's a 5-man, but the eliminations are just not where they need to be. Valkyrie from Squid trying to keep the team up and running, but it looks like Marquette is finally going to lose fight number 1. Resurrection onto Reach, and I think they're going to be reaching to get back to their spawn room as fast as possible. A 5v3 against them, a critical spawn disadvantage, but clearly that is not going to stop this team from continuing to move forward. The Reach Resurrection clearly worth its weight in gold. Has another player down, another overclock online, and another dominant run against Villanova. The Bionade will finally send Reach back to spawn and hit up the Stomps and Squid to buy as much time as they can.
But Axehand now is back, as well as Royal Ranger. Everybody's coming back here for Marquette. They're not giving up on this. Squid dying may put the nail in that coffin.
Yeah,
because Resurrection's not there. No more Suzu as well, as that it can get used to cleanse the Bionade. But they're not giving up on this match.
I gotta say, it's shocking that they're still standing this strong down the line. Nate is gonna fall as well. Here's a visor to boot, and while they aren't gonna be able to set an EGF record anymore, they can certainly set one of their own, a PB, if they've ever seen one. Villanova University trapped into spawn. Vandervaart does find Squid in the back line. That's got to be enough. Oh, you can't. No, it stops. You can't go in there. That's what the big X means on the door. You are not allowed into that spawn room, but you're definitely stalling out a lot of time. Another overclock, this time from Nate the Cat. Can they get some value with it? A window to help the garage door open wide by Happy Sparrow. Oh, and there goes Axehand. A perfect time to turn this fight around. Reach gets the equalizer, catches a beam to the dome, and still lives to tell the tale off that mini. Royal Ranger now on the Kiriko gets into the fight and tries to keep this team up and running. It's amazing that Marquette has been down in the numbers for 2 full fights in a row, but somehow they haven't lost a single one.
They've kept the close spawn this entire time, and now Stomp's already back. So everybody on this team has decent mobility, whether it be teleporting to a teammate or just the sprint and slide that Soldier and his Soldier have, and just they've been able to get into these fights so quick. Vandervaart's trying to shut it down, though. Reach for no help, able to be taken out, and maybe it's time to call it quits here for Golden Eagles, and I guess not.
They res again. I mean, they are just relentless at this point. They are a ruthless team. A minefield comes out. Wraith should barely help Nate the Cat get out of there in time. The Sigma shield is up, and I think Marquette realizes we don't have to win in regulation. We just need to make sure they never put a number on the board, and right now they have been more than dominant at doing that. The close spawn working against Villanova in its complete capability. Overclock, the third one of the game from Reach. Royal Ranger puts down Happy Sparrow, has to switch step out of the way. Suzu blocked offline as well. Reach gets another elim onto Nate. I can only imagine how many eliminations Reach has online right now because it is guaranteed a lot.
It's gotta be a ridiculous amount. And here we go. Squid res yet again. Able to bail out Reach for no help. Riptire. Okay, that should be it.
That's gotta be it.
That should be the end of the 5-minute long fight that we just saw, basically.
It's gotta be it, right?
It's gotta be. Reach for no help's dead. The question is, do they get any progress though? Because everybody again from Marquette able to get the close spawn in the spot, taking a long time to get back to that middle of the map.
Getting back to the middle of the map is a slow and steady play. They finally negate the forward spawn, but Stomps is right there to help him try and steal it back. Visor from Accent out of the high ground at the 1-1 support grade. Kitsune Rush making this attack visor fire even faster. Helix Rockets find Nate. There goes Vandervaart, and just as quickly as they lose, or they find a close spawn, Marquette is going to be able to regain it once again. That might have been a complete and total team kill. I don't think Athena's going to let us know because of the respawn time, but Marquette, they body all 5 members, and they're ready to try and win this out once again.
Villanova do have the Gravitic Flux online, ready to go. Nate the Cat could pair it if need be with the Death Blossom, so at least weapons available here for Villanova. But again, are you able to at least set it up before Marquette do one of these very quick engages?
These quick engages have been the name of the game for this squadron so far, Salty, and I don't think we're going to be seeing a change on that anytime soon. They want to come out quickly. They want to find the early advantage against the squad, and I don't know if they're going to be able to. Reach for no help finds Vandervaart. Marquette has a couple of ultimates just around the corner. Here comes the grapple off the bot through the steel trap. Minefield in the pocket, immediately going to pop it, and that is the bot completely covered. Ana should be going down off that. I'd be shocked if she lived, and somehow she does. I've got to wonder if an immortality field had to come out to keep that Ana alive.
You gotta think it. Oh, Nate just gets Helix as soon as they try and use the ultimate. They should still win this fight, but that is definitely not the way to try and get the confidence back going your way. But again, at least Villanova able to shoo away the Golden Eagles once more, and the Wildcats now trying to get that bot at least to where a close spawn is no longer a factor here.
Eliminating the close spawn would certainly help the kind of stall the waterfall of momentum that Marquette has been bringing to the table over and over. And speaking of momentum, how about a 5th overclock from Reach? Just kidding. Vandervaart takes them offline early. A nade catches out into the air. A nano, a garage door opening. Villanova throwing everything at the wall and praying anything's able to stick. There goes one. Nate the Cat takes down Ranger. Reach gets up once again, and the overclock might be just around the corner. Doesn't even need it to take the legend out of the equation. Villanova slowly but surely gaining these meters, but still losing the war against Marquette's DPS lineup.
It's just crazy what their DPS lineup's been able to do, and a lot of it is set up from stomps, whether it be the pile drive or even just knocking everybody around.
Yeah.
Just gets them into a place to where they obviously weren't expecting to be, and finishes them off from there. Stomps just gets a 3K during that fight just casually. And I think it's at the point of the map where, especially on push, it's 120 to 8.
Yep.
It would have to be a miracle run here from Villanova. They have to win this next fight, win the fight at mid, probably win another fight right before checkpoint, and then win another 1 or 2 fights after that in OT. It is becoming a taller and taller mountain to climb here for the Wildcats to even force a map forward.
I think you're absolutely correct. We're looking at minimum 5 fight wins in a row. Baits out the Suzu, gets it destroyed by the overclock, and poor Vandervaart just cannot find that lineup. 87 seconds remain. Now it's just 80 seconds on the clock. Ravitic Flux sends him up. Is there a Suzu to bring him down safely? No, but nobody goes down for it either. Only gets rid of half your HP. Reach for no help. Found Vandervaart. Tire offline. The Junkrat not far behind in Valkyrie, keeping the entire team healthy. Kitsune, I assume they're going to pop it as quick as they can, but they want to hold on to it. They don't want to overextend their cards.
They might as well. They only have a minute left. If they can extend this fight out a little bit, they know it's going to go their way. And yep, there we go. Kitsune with attack visor, able to pick up at least 2. The rest eaten up by grass. But this has been the showing of Marquette. We've been wanting to see the entire season. They will not go 0-9. They will be able to get that first win of the season on the board with a 3-0 sweep.
A 3-0 sweep, just a very clean run from our friends at Marquette University. The push map maybe taking a little longer than they wanted, but I'm a firm believer of the phrase better late than never. You finally got it done. You put the numbers on the board, and you put a win in that slot for the first time this season. It was a difficult run up to this point, but now this meta has finally flipped into a spot they feel comfortable. I'm sure they are stoked looking down at the rest of the season.
Oh, I cannot imagine what the comms are like right now for Marquette. It's just a great game for them overall. And I want to see them carry this on now. They play RIT next week, which honestly, if they play like that, extremely winnable game.
Without a doubt.
And they may still be just technically with the forfeits wins for Villanova. I think they're still last in standings, but in power rankings, I would not put them there anymore. I think they're at least a few spots up because that was a great performance from them.
Agreed. I mean, it was just clean through and through. They played semi-unconventional, semi-weird, a lot of wrecking ball, and it works every single time. I truly cannot wait to try and get an interview with one of them, so we're going to throw it to a break, try to pull one of them in for an interview, so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to the EGFC Overwatch. We have just wrapped up a very dominant victory for Marquette, 3-0 over Villanova. We are joined by a team member, Zippy, not Zippy. Flex, I was trying to say Flex Player Zippy, and I just put all the letters together at once. Flex Player Zippy, who we saw a little bit of last week, but none of this week. So, Zippy, you know, it's a simple question to kick us off, but it's a W. It's a win. And with the entire meta having shifted, is this Marquette's like anime redemption arc? Or are we going to see y'all just continue to body like this with this new meta?
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so. Our player Stomps has been grinding a lot of ball in ranked, I've been seeing. And, you know, after last split going 0-8, I think we were pretty much in shambles, but we've seemed to pull stuff together again this semester. Hopefully going to be looking to pick up a few more wins before the end of the season.
Definitely. Well, you know, last week we could tell it was a different Marquette last week. You know, you take a map off of UConn and it was probably one of the best maps of Kings Row we've seen in a long time, and now you go over to this week and it just seemed like you guys never took your foot off the gas. How are you guys looking at this matchup, seeing how last week went?
Yeah, so after last week, we kind of realized that, hey, we have a good chance here. And we were really grinding, scrimming, I think, all days, but the 2 weekend days since last game, just really grinding, trying to pick up this first win of the season.
Yeah, and you definitely paid off, that's for sure. What's everyone's kind of grasp on the meta right now? Because we saw a lot of different looks from you guys tonight, obviously. The Wrecking Ball is a very large part of it. Well, where are you guys kind of seeing where this meta landed?
Yes, obviously the ball is a really big part of it, given like Stomps' performances on the ball. Also, one of our players, Royal, is taking over more of a coaching role, and he's been like looking at contenders data and stuff, sort of sussing out what are like the best hero picks. But also given the fact that a lot of our team is like mid diamond-ish, we still also tend to go to comfort picks a lot of the time.
Sure. I think comfort picks are. I'm a huge believer in comfort picks personally, and I do want to throw in one extra question here because I'm just a little curious. Last week when you guys played, every map almost somebody was in a different role. Was that kind of an intentional per map thing, or were you guys just trying to find your best footing moving forward and wanted to see who kind of what pieces went where?
Yeah, so I think it's largely us still trying to find our footing for the semester. We got a new player, Reach. And he like me and Stomps are both kind of like flex. We play a lot of the DPS and tanks, so we're just kind of trying to figure out what works best still at that point. I think now with the ball that's made it, the ball buffs, that's made it very clear that Stomps should be playing the tank for at least the time being.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it makes sense to kind of figure out who went where, but each map it was like, oh, they're still in, but now they're in, whatever. So we were trying to figure it out. But this current meta definitely looks good for you guys. Just one more question, Zippy, and we will let you get on your way. Anybody you want to give a shout out or a thank you to just while you're here with us?
I want to shout out our team's old coach. He's sort of taken a step back because he's graduated. But Doc Dangles, he's kind of been here for the team, keeping us going. Especially when Overwatch 1 was kind of seeming to be dying. He was like keeping the team alive at the school. So yeah, shout out to Doc Dangles.
Yeah, you love to hear it. Well, hey, huge congrats on this first victory and best of luck in the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that, folks, we're going to go ahead and throw it to a pretty extended break, if we're being honest. That was a pretty fast 3-0, so Marquette is going to give us a little bit of time to hang out. Our next match slated to start at 9:30 p.m. EST. So come right back here to EGFC for some more Overwatch 2 action in just a bit. Few more salty. I think I've made myself pretty clear on that. Starting with one of my favorites, Lijiang Tower. After that, Paraiso, New Queen Street. And if we end up in that coveted map 4, Chambali Monastery. After that, Nepal, our closing control point of the day. We have not seen a map 5 today on either channel, so if it does happen here, this will be the first. But maybe we'll get to that Chambali Monastery.
I think at least getting to Shambali is a very good possibility.
Yeah.
Especially because we think these teams are very close to each other. But again, it's a new meta. We didn't think Marquette was going to sweep Villanova like they did in that previous series. But again, it's a new meta. We're kind of feeling out where everybody kind of reshuffled, especially teams that were very close to each other going into this point. So now I'm very curious to see how these two teams settle into this new meta to where we thought going into last series, like, oh, we're going to see a lot of the same looks. And then we never saw Ramatra once last series. I think that was more because Marquette just loved the ball pick and Villanova just didn't know really what to do against it. And Ram is definitely not the pick against ball. So I expect we're going to see here soon, but you never know. Honestly, with these two teams, they always like to throw just little curveballs at us.
I'm trying to think, did we even see Orisa last series?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We didn't see Ram or Orisa, which is
two of the best
weird
tanks in the game right now. Two tanks that we fully expect to be seeing very often just aren't hanging, can't hang right now. So maybe these teams are going to bring us a little more of those upper echelon. We did talk about that at the beginning of that last series, as both those teams have found themselves in the lower edges of the bracket, so we didn't expect a full meta run. These two have been trying to prove themselves for quite a while, a little higher up in that roster, those brackets, so maybe they're going to bring out a little bit more meta. I expect maybe Ramatra, Orisa, maybe Ryan if we end up in the right, control center. We did see Reinhardt earlier. There's a lot of variables at play, and I'm excited to see what tank line is brought out by both these schools tonight.
Yeah, I think obviously the Ryan pick is always going to be at least debate. I think Tomato Lord, we've seen them really settle into that Ramatra role. Even though they got swept last week, he was definitely one of the bright spots in that matchup when we casted it last week. Okay, Tomato Lord is still frying.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be shocked if UTA kind of just stuck to the guns on that. We did not. We got to see St. John's last week too, but they played Nova, so it's like
An important note, though, as well, is UT Arlington, Tomato Lord, when I think of Collegiate Wrecking Ball, I think of Tomato Lord as that player. So I'm really curious if we're going to see that resurgence of Wrecking Ball. It makes sense to not run it on Control Center. We talked about earlier, this is Reinhardt's playground through and through. We're going to dive into combat early. Sim Junk versus May Kaz. Reinhardt's looking for a little bit of swing action. The wall from Sleepy Bear keeps St. John's online fast enough to get into the momentum, and it looks like it might be a first fight, at least kind of space win for UT Arlington. They've got a great zoning over St. John's. Both Ryan's going to miss their left shift, send themselves into the back line of the opposing team. Immortality Field from Shing has to come out early, keeping UT Arlington at that strong 5. No ammos in sight, all damage permanent, and St. John's choosing to backpedal a bit before the recontest.
Just trying to let the symmetric charge get down, and now trying to re-enter.
Symmetric charge 20% faster, 20% faster on the way up and down. Jake will be the first, though, with that stupid flashbang coming out from Cassidy, but an E-limp is an E-limp regardless. St. John's University finds 2 of them. UTA almost 1/5 of the way done, and while they are down in the number, it's about stalling for as long as possible. Over 20% off a fight like that is pretty darn confident.
It's not bad, especially because there was no real, like, fight loser or winner that first engagement. It was kind of just like, oh, St. John's decided to back up for a second just to regroup, and the regroup definitely worked out, but Jake gets a little orb right to the face from Dez. It opens up the door for the Mavericks here to try and push on in with that TP.
Yeah, that's a big yikes. That is not where you want to find yourself in that moment. Jolton Joe puts down Andrew to 1-1 DPS trade offline. Tomato Lord has that shadow now online, knows that Joe already emptied his arsenal, and Lord does just as quickly. Not able to find anything, but the beat is forced. Garage door closed by Curie Breach. Not able to find the Elim, but it's Shing from the wings that puts down UT Arlington's Baptiste. Shing will fall, and thank badge not the next to follow. UT Arlington losing the roster. St. John's, this Cassidy just dominating the matchup so far. Phenomenal. They should be able to restabilize and take a lead over UTA.
They're just keeping that distance to where Andrew's not really getting much more done other than shield break and sometimes hitting Jolton Joe. That's really been about it so far. Jake, on the other hand, is consistently putting pressure on the back line of the Mavericks.
Backline is where you need to be. You put them down, you remove the Lucio, you take B offline, you get rid of Immortality Field, and the enemies have truly nowhere to hide. With Sleepy Bear's Blizzard online, I'd like to see St. John's bring it out early, especially now that the beat has been dropped. A great wall to make the space, and then to move backwards into it could be huge. It comes out, but they're pinned through it. The Blizzard is useless, thrown off kilter, and nobody gonna get frozen out. Tomato Lord gone. St. John's capitalizing off the space made by that Blizzard, and incredibly so. Jake living up to the name of great Overwatch players named Jake right now, just dominating the field, putting 3 elims on the board in that fight alone. Another high noon locked and loaded.
They're just playing so confident right now. No matter what they do, they are hitting the shots that are necessary, and it's really lifted St. John's just to even stay in this. Even though they tend to give up the point during these fights, they keep winning them back.
Winning them back is all that matters. You can let it slip for a moment, but as long as your number is a little bit higher at the end of the day, you can put this stage down. A great photon barrier separates Jolton Joe from the squad, drops the shatter, can't find anything from it. Tomato Lord also null and void. Very devastating shatters from the both of them. A tire comes out from St. John's, or towards St. John's, excuse me, from Andrew. It looks like there's not many people to grab. Sleepy Bear on the way out the door. St. John's falls short of the fight, but with 2 ultimates moving into the next one, Salty, who are we going to be taking a look at to restabilize for St. John's?
I would say you have to look at Jake a little bit, just because the first time they even got some value out of. So if this time around, with the Deadeye, speed in with Joey Baloney, try and at least break that shield of Tomato Lord, but Shing does have that hit matrix ready to go.
Shing is a pretty good supportal combat player. We talked about that a lot last week when we saw UT Arlington. High Noon creates the space, can't find the eliminations, and Sleepy Bear down. Tomato Lord already out of the fight. Jolton Joe eliminated as well, and UT Arlington losing the tank. You think it would be over, but they are nowhere near done with ripping this team apart. 91 to what will soon be 90. Can St. John's win this with nothing in their arsenal?
I think it's definitely doable. Beautiful A matrix there from Shing, and just so much damage coming through from Andrew, and they already could build one final Riptide here in the dying moments.
The Riptire could be huge to create the space against St. John's. They got it to 91%, but somebody has to touch. 99 now on the board. We are officially entering the overtime. Andrew 10% off the tire, but with Shing missing the tire is online. It's going to have to be huge beyond belief, and it is! There go 2 players. Baptiste gone, Cassidy gone. Andrew gives their life for the cause, but it looks like it may have been just enough for St. John's to take over once again. 99 on the board. The Riptire here to save the day. And St. John's happy to walk away with a stage 1 victory. They just need to win out half of a fight here. It's going to be a sloppy one.
Yeah, and don't have to teleport either.
Wait,
so
if there's one at
trying
all.
to get there from
Oh, no!
Tracer, and Tomato Lord does end up touching.
Middleward makes it on the Tracer, not far behind Andrew there into the recontest. Is it going to be a fight win, or is it a delay of the inevitable? Shatter not online quite yet. Jake going as far as the Bastion. It's about finding early damage. Immortality Field gone, beat offline from UT Arlington. And with that, Blizzard and Shatter just around the corner. Was it possibly a little too early? A double stun onto both supports. St. John's has to have this one in the bag. Goodbye, Tomato Lord. Goodbye, Dez. Goodbye, Control Center. St. John's winning stage number 1.
What a back and forth round, and this is the map we thought we were going to be seeing.
This is what we wanted.
This is what we wanted, because St. John's and UTA are both here to play, and so far I'd say it's arguably very close. Tomato Lord, do they stick the Wrecking Ball? You know, we talked about it, and you talked about it right beforehand, like he is a very good Wrecking Ball player, so we'll have to wait and see if he does stick that.
Oh.
St. John's going over to the Ramacho for the first time today, and it seems like at least with the support line the Mavericks are going, they should be sticking to this Wrecking Ball composition as well.
I think they would be, honestly. The composition makes a lot of sense. I'd like to see the Symmetra TP out of spawn and then fly up on the Echo, but this makes sense. All I'm worried about is going to be that Zen Brig. I know this is kind of a rush down composition, and the healing isn't of that much concern with how much damage you're able to put out, but in that same regard, it's just a dangerous place to find yourselves in a matchup like this. The pressure is stacked against them. Stank Badge in particular. These Discord orbs are going to have to be flawless to make the Zenyatta pick worth it. Joey Baloney knocked off the bridge, able to wall ride back up. Jolton Joe deep into the back line. Shing already critical. Desperate to get away, but they can't run from the punches fast enough. Goodbye, support line of UT Arlington. That almost guarantees this first fight win for St. John's unless we see a miracle.
Perfect game plan there from St. John's. Realizing, oh, the supports are all alone by bridge?
And with
okay,
no
let's
mobility.
Just rush them down because Pummel is not blocked by shield. So at that point, Shing is just a dead man walking, and the rest of the team are soon to follow. For UTA, you got to think, okay, will this work in time, or do we switch early? I think it should work in time, at least for a little bit here, as if they can at least try and separate Jake.
Yeah, getting Jake out of the equation is going to help keep this advantage moving forward. And just like that, Jake goes down. UT Arlington, they want to be able to take out another one, put themselves into a 5-3 advantage state. Dez into the air, and nobody to counter them quite yet with Jake removed from the fight. Is Sleepy Bear going to give up that frontline DPS to just try and take down this Echo? Stank Badge again, going to get killed early. UT Arlington lose Discord Orb, they lose a lot of healing, and all that charge going towards Transcendence down the drain. Joey Baloney on the stall mission, getting them up to nearly 40%, while the rest of the team rips UT Arlington apart. It was all a diversion, it was all a distraction, and UT Arlington absolutely fell for it. Locked out of the Lucio. St. John's dissected them during that combat, halfway done with stage number 2.
The longer the fights go, the better it is for the Red Storm, as they don't have the sustain over on the side of UTA. It's just not there. You're running Zen with the Brig. You're playing for these very quick picks. You're trying to isolate a target. And yes, it worked for Jake. It did not work for the rest of St. John's.
There's going to be a great stick into the back line. It's Jake. Nothing quite yet from it, but as we see Kiri Bree putting the Kitsune online, Tomato Lord answers it with a minefield. No, the minefield is on point, actually, so I think that's quite a fascinating play. As the rest of St. John's is ripping these remaining members apart, Sleepy Bear takes the space, goes down. The minefield pretty much comes to a close before the team can even make it to point. Doesn't get the value they want, but still creates a lot of space for UT Arlington in trying to fuse. There goes some more damage. Jolton Joe has more eliminations with the hands than he does the primary fire, and I don't think that number is going to change anytime soon. It was stolen away from them in a breath here, Salty, but St. John's restabilizing all over again. It's been the name of the game for them all day.
I will at least say for UTA, getting that flip gives them one more fight, because if they did not get that flip, the round would be ending right now, and so would the map. So it at least gives them one more engagement to try and use Rally and the duplicate. But man, I don't know, with the way St. John's is playing, they're looking pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, St. John's, they're taking absolutely no prisoners. For Dez, no transformation in sight, probably won't get to use it. As another member falls, the overclock puts down the tank, primary DPS, and it's up for the remaining 3 members to stall or win an insane team fight. But as long as Jake is standing, it is not going to be an easy run. St. John's University with a 2-0 victory on Lijiang Tower, already 33% done with their goal here tonight.
I will say that was definitely more of a convincing win over there on Gardens for St. John's. And I think the ball pick, it could work. It could have worked, but that time it just didn't. Like, every single time they tried to set up an engage, the peel was there from St. John's. They knew exactly what the game plan was from UTA, and they just canceled it out every single time. And it worked beautifully if you're St. John's. And now you're going over to a map, which I would say I would worry a little bit if you were St. John's because you know the ball can be played. We saw in the last series. We also got to be feeling very good about how Jake is playing. Jake is playing extremely well, and if you get them on that high ground that is so potent here on Paraiso, then it could be a long night for the Mavericks.
Yeah, if you just let Jake take the space they want, this could be a very easy rundown composition. Getting in the face, staying in the face, being that difficult opponent. But if Jake goes down, like we saw a few fights in the mix there where Jake did fall, and all of a sudden St. John's found themselves in a bit of a panic. They lost the point for like, I think it was 17% and had to stabilize upon Jake's return. Maybe UT Arlington notices this as well. Maybe they identify that, okay, Jake clearly has a lot of say and a lot of play in this composition. Let's remove them as fast as possible and then see how we can overperform later.
Exactly. And I think for UTA, you go into this match like, okay, obviously the ball didn't work. The Ryan duel, I would say you still feel pretty decent in. It's not like, I don't think either Ryan won it one way or another. I think it was more the supporting cast of St. John's that won that out for them over on Control Center. So if you were entering this map for UTA, it's like, okay, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. You can't fall into an 0-2 slump because we know how good St. John's is at push. And especially UTA last week against Delaware, push was not close. Like, push was the one where it got away from them, and it got away from them quickly. Yeah. So you got to think in their heads, this is a must-win map.
Yeah, push finds itself to be pretty snowbally in the collegiate scene, whether that be, you know, just bodying or getting bodied. That's the name of the game for push, and they certainly don't want to find themselves in that 2-0 slump like you mentioned. UT Arlington needs to answer back quickly here. I think the meta for this map in particular is still very up in the air. People are not completely sure what the defense looks like. We've been seeing tries at May and Symmetra, a classic Sojourn. People try to Widow, but that's a tough one to work with. A lot of characters are trying to get their spotlight here on Paraiso, and I want to see if we push that envelope even further. Or are we going to be seeing weird off-meta picks again, or are we going to see St. John's running the composition that clearly has very few holes in it?
I would say, at least if you're St. John's, you're not changing too much. You keep Jake on the Soldier, and maybe the flex DPS changes up a little bit depending on what UTA is running. But there's no reason to take him off because Sojourn is not a must pick anymore, but she's still good. She's still one of the best. Yeah, she's still very highly recommended. So I think, especially when Jake's hitting the shots like they are, run it. If UTA all of a sudden pull out like a Pharah or something, okay, then maybe you pull out the Ashe or the Soldier, just in case for that more consistent long-range damage. But I think this is definitely a playground for Jake that if they continue the momentum that they're having, it could be a very great round for them. And UTA, I think, just you got to start early. You got to punch early this first fight, win it, and set the momentum straight.
I think a big problem and what we saw back in Lijiang Tower was confidence. It was overzealousness versus a little bit of fear, a little bit of over-respect, where UT Arlington was afraid to push into St. John's. They were a little nervous to take those 1v1s, to take those 5v5 engagements, and St. John's never was. They never blinked in the eye of danger. They constantly went in, found the damage, found the eliminations, and UTA fumbled to respond several times in a row. I think if we looked way back at UTA, back in like week 3 of this entire season, I saw them 3-0 in a dominant fashion. I remember complimenting their aggression and their overcoming adversity in the situation of, okay, we're done 3-5. Somehow they'd clutch it out. I was amazed every single time. But right now, that UTA is not the one we're looking at. I know they've had a couple of character swaps, a couple of player swaps, studying abroad, graduating, albeit no matter what it is. I want to see that UTA. I want to see the one who's not afraid to take a little bit of damage. Sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war, and I want that Arlington back.
It's the Tiki mentality. Like,
Straight
Tiki
up!
he was one of the most infamous tanks in EGF because of how aggressive he was all the time. And I know he's at least involved with this team still. Obviously, as you said, he's studying abroad this semester, which I can't imagine, A, the time zones, and B, the ping that you would even have to deal with trying to play studying abroad. I think for especially this team, is all right, just do your thing. Like, you just got to trust yourselves and do what you need to do. You can't worry about what St. John's are running because they're going to run meta. St. John's is a very smart team. They're not going to run too off meta as it is. So I will say this is both teams are on the ball, at least here to start off Paraiso. Interesting.
I have thoughts about that, I think.
Yeah.
St. John's definitely running an anti-ball comp, so it feels like they're expecting the Wrecking Ball to come out. We're seeing the Tracer, we're seeing the Brig, we're seeing the Ana, the Sombra. All of them have an ability or two that, you know, when they hit, they're a little more valuable. But the Sleep Dart is a great example of that, finding that early sleep onto the Wrecking Ball and then kind of a 3-2-1 collapse onto them. Can help a team out, take down that tank. You're a lot more confident to move in. Jake makes it onto site pretty aggressively here. Just waiting for a moment to strike. When Joey Baloney falls, the team has to turn around. Andrew slept, bioed, and hacked, taken down by Jake, and there might be an answer from Tomato Lord. They get in, they get right back out of the equation. You love to see it. A strong defense start from Arlington. They lose one, but luckily enough, it's one of the fastest characters in the game.
Exactly, and I think Dez is going to be a very interesting interaction here, where he's just going to get knocked around. There's no real counter for him. Yeah, at least for anybody for him to counter. He's kind of just going to be there to poke damage and try and finish off targets, and that time gets cut off just a little bit too overpossessed.
Uh-oh, Stank Badge hacked out, falls to sub, maybe a quarter HP will go down. Sleepy Bear there on the collapse as well, and when you see Arlington loses that Discord orb, it's going to be a lot harder to take a Wrecking Ball out of the equation. Andrew hacks Pulse Bomb online, forces the recall out early. Might be able to use it. Answering onto the Ana would be huge. It's a whiff, but it's still going to be able to find the elimination. Curry Bree goes down. Andrew traded out, gives their life for the cause, but a DPS for a support is a trade you'll take any day, especially the one support with no mobility to her name. Jake has EMP, definitely wants to hold on to it, but not afraid to use it if they find it necessary. St. John's establishing a presence on point. I like what they're doing. They're kind of bodying UT Arlington out. Stank Badge now finding Jake. A huge trade-off. Sleepy Bear forced down to 41 HP. Recall online, but they choose not to use it. A faith in those supports to keep them up and running will finally go down. Joey joined as well. Half the time bank missing. And St. John's not even a tick for their efforts.
You could tell Joey Baloney knew they screwed up as soon as they stepped onto that stairs. Like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to get pooped off here. Tomato Lord sends them away. And this is what we talked about. Tomato Lord is a very competent Wrecking Ball, and they will probably win, and they're winning this match right now. Jolton Joe's been struggling to get in, even with the Sombra on the side of St. John's.
Yeah, you think the Sombra would be very beneficial, but instead it may be detrimental. Sombra does, I believe, the lowest damage per second of any DPS in the game. They just upped it to 6.5 per bullet, I think, for headshot with a bullet, so she really does not have a high damage velocity threshold. Jolton Joe puts down Dez. St. John's, they've got the numbers, but maybe not for long. Holy cow, Andrew with a full clip. Sleepy Bear walks into the rest of it, and UT Arlington find themselves at a numbers disadvantage for the first time in a while. Can they answer back when they need to? A spawn disadvantage to boot makes this even harder. Here's a pulse bomb. There's a half HP Wrecking Ball. Do you commit the ult early? Do you think you even need it? It looks like they're going to chase that all the way into the Shadow Realm. Goodbye, Jolton Joe. Hello, 60 seconds left on the clock.
And the supports are left all alone. And will they be able to get out? I'm not sure. It seems like they will be able to. A lot of armor packs having to be used by Joey Baloney just to keep their support up. But they're at least able to not stagger themselves any further. But St. John's just aren't able to poke on through. They only have the rally to really lean on here in this fight as well, as Stank Badge having that transcendence if it gets anywhere near sticky here for the Mavericks.
I don't even know where Nano went. I just thought about that. I don't even know where Joey Baloney went. Goodbye, Kiri Bree. Andrew, a phenomenal performance so far, just keeping a dominant play on the Tracer. Tomato Lord winning the ball 1v1. Andrew winning the Tracer 1v1. St. John's still locking onto the Sombra. I just don't think it's getting the value. 1 EMP in 4 minutes, Salty? That is not where you want to be when you're running a Sombra.
No, and yes, you can try and set up some of these fights and you'll be able to set up the touch, but is it worth in the long haul? And for the most part, not really. Did somebody touch? Yes, it was. And that's a touch from Joe and Joe, at least to send us into OT.
Yeah, the OT is on the line for the first half of Paraíso, but I'm starting to get the feeling we're not going to see anything past this first point today. Tomato Lord able to find Fury Bree. Ana offline. Brigida not far behind. It's a 2-for-2 trade, but the support's still standing for UT Arlington. Yes, it's a brig, but can she make the difference? Maybe not. The Overwatch factor at its finest. Jake commits the EMP with their final breath, and Tomato Lord a 4-piece in this current equation. Jolton Joe clears the minefield, has to keep this contest alive, but with no supports to help them, a 2v1 will quickly turn into a 2v none, but there she is. Kiri Bree emerges, uses the Suzu to keep the Wrecking Ball standing. Chal and Andrew with another pulse bomb in the pocket. Not going to get the chance to use it. If Jolton Joe goes down, I'm ready to say this fight is over, but if Joe can stay standing, St. John's can cap this first point and give us an advantage. A Visor now online. Kiri Bree has to swift step away. Sleepy Bear answers it. A pulse bomb. Soldier offline. 1.5 ticks already. St. John's playing with every ounce of energy they have right now, 110%, but they just cannot get the numbers back when they need them. Jake returns to the fight halfway to another EMP. It is just a slow, steady burn. Shing gone, traded for Jake. A pulse bomb onto Joe. Adaptive shields up to keep him up and running. The second this team steps off the point, it will be over. But it just cannot end yet, Salty. Every ounce of breath. Another one. A Kitsune rush from Kiri cannot keep Joe alive. Minefield from Tomato Lord has to be the nail in the coffin, and Tomato Lord will slam it in with his own hands if he has to. UT Arlington full holding. First point, only 50% gained.
Wow. I was about to say, like, if St. John's pulled that back, Kiri Bree is like the spoken MVP of that.
Straight up.
I will at least say that no matter what they get 50%, that they had no right to even get, because Kiribri is able to swap over to the Kiriko, and use the Swift Step, get over to Jolton Joe, and at least create a whole another second engagement from there, and it just seemed like counter punch. Not many people had ultimates going into that because everybody thought it was either going to be done or we were going on later on. Andrew tries to use, I believe, the Tac Visor at one point, gets hit with the Pulse Bomb from St. John's, and just nothing seemed to go the way of St. John's other than kind of stalling that out a little bit. And now UTA in a very good spot here on Paiu. So with now the Widow at least getting a little bit of attempted. And I agree with you in the fact that the Sombra pick just hasn't got the value that it needed. I think maybe switching it up a little bit, even if you do swap over just to the Sojourn, why not? You know you're playing great at it. And the Sombra pick just hasn't gotten the value that they really wanted from this fight.
Yeah, and after the Sombra nerf, it is really hard to use her in a fast-paced matchup like this, because you can only hack, like if you hack someone, you have to wait 8 more seconds to hack that person again. You can no longer hack off cooldown, which was a lot of the reason she was so valuable. She could just completely remove a tank from the game and make them impossible to play, but her damage threshold is so low that Jake has really been struggling. It's part of the reason Jake was so strong, because Sojourn and Cassidy just body anyone who stands in their way, but right now it's not about bodying, it's about surviving, doing the damage to help your team put a victory on the board, and that victory may unfortunately be just out of the wings as the Sombra's out once again. Stank Badge has fallen. You fought the first fight advantage. Again, you continue it forward. Sleepy Bear recalls out. Very few HP left standing, but you had some, and that's what matters. Jolton Joe falls. Dez finds the opening, and UT Arlington a full 5, ready to dash into sight.
Dez just that finishing beam, able just to take down Jolton Joe, and without any of that chaos, without the pile drive to set up, St. John's kind of just playing to survive, and it's hard to survive when Kiribri is down. So is Sleepy Bear, and everything's falling apart for St. John's.
Sleepy Bear is out of there, and UT Arlington lose map number 1, but they're ready to dominate map number 2 and at least take us to Shambhala Monastery for the first time today. We're getting a map 4 on hand. Phenomenal job from UTA. Their defense strong, their offense maybe even stronger, but we unfortunately didn't get a great look at it. Map 2 comes to a close in the blink of an eye there, Salty. Map 3, gonna be that one that UT Arlington not exactly stoked to have to run it back on.
No, but I think with the momentum that you have gained from this map alone, you're feeling at least a little bit better than you did after Li Jiang. Sure. Because Tomato Lord, I think, on that map, you can at least run him. I think they should start with him at least. Start with him on the Wrecking Ball, figure it out. If it does work, cool. Because on the summer counter pick on the other side has not worked, and they realize that. So if they're not changing the counter pick, why change what you're running? Absolutely. We'll kind of wait and see what they, try to do.
Yeah, and we are going to wait and see, as we are going to throw to a little bit of a break. That is a 1-1 on the series. We know it's going at least to map number 4. We'll see you right back here with map 3, New Queen Street, in just a few. is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the EGFC Overwatch once again. Series starts dominate 2-0 on Legion Tower for St. John's University. The script flipped in its entirety. UT Arlington bodies on Paraíso, and now we are on map number 3. Which one of these teams can take the lead? Arlington, a notorious history of not doing great here, Salty. Hopefully, they can change that tonight.
Definitely hoping to at least change that fortune a little bit. St. John's, I do not blame them not trying to run the ball comp anymore. Going back to what worked over on Lijiang Tower with the Ramatra and Jake
no
on
Sombra.
the Soldier. Yeah, and more importantly, no Sombra to be seen.
That's definitely what I was worried about. Sombra, one of the hardest characters to play right now because she has little to no value if we're hitting you with the raw facts. And as we see them moving forward with the Soldier all over again, it makes all the sense in the world. Incredible performance back on Lijiang. I'd love to see it again here on New Queen Street. A lot of long lines of sights for you to utilize. And even this Wrecking Ball wasn't much of a problem with Jake was nailing those railgun shots.
Yeah, and already trying to at least aim one up on Tomato Lord. Not willing to fire the alternate fire quite yet. Just looking for a far shot and almost gets Stank Beds. Knocks him down to like 20.
Oh, Dez with the first blood here on to Kyriabri. She's fallen early, so St. John's losing a lot of healing as their only other healer is that poor Lucio caught there on his lonesome. Shing falls next to Jolton Joe, and is that going to be enough? Joe bodying UT Arlington. One support falls, and Joe doubles down. He's not worried about getting out. He's worried about getting a W, and he's getting danger close now. 11 meters up and running. St. John's, they fall to first blood, but somehow come out on top of the fight. Incredible.
It's the same thing that they try to do over on Lijiang. As soon as UTA's tank and DPS trying to go on an engagement and leaves their supports alone, and it's just speed. Joy Baloney speeds in Jill and Joy. They go into Nemesis form and just use Pummel and just absolutely delete the backline because there's nothing that really protects you from it.
Yeah, there's nothing that really protects you from the backline when you're missed like that. Sleepy Bear goes down for their pulse bomb efforts to a shield back. What if it 50 damage from that now? Stank Badge can't make it out from Joe, and Shing can't either. It's such a bummer. Things are looking so good for UT Arlington, but Joe just says, hey, don't mind me. Puncha, puncha, puncha. All of a sudden, the fight's over. St. John finding themselves on top, but as Jolton Joe finally goes down, UT Arlington should get a bit of wiggle room to put some points on the board.
Don't have the supports there quite yet, though, so let's play it just at least a little bit safe, but at least should get that barrier relatively close to where St. John's were able to get it on the opposing side of the map. But so far, I'd say it's pretty even, just the clash of play styles so far relatively going in the favor of UTA.
Yeah, I have to agree. The clash of play styles has been a back and forth between these schools, but UT Arlington has finally found their moment to strike, capitalizing on the plan, and Middle Lord already able to do so. Goodbye, Jake. Joe, 155 HP, but the rest of the team already gone. Send it into the mine, my friend. You are out of there. A complete and total team kill for UTA. This will help them establish a very early lead and most likely a first point cap.
We should see, unless Sleepy Bear is able to sneak on in and stall it just for a little bit. That'd be the only way I think they do. But actually, Joy Baloney speeding Jolton Joe in, but it should at least be the take going through. There's probably another fight, though, afterwards.
Yeah, not able to make it down. First point cap in favor of UT Arlington. Close spawn activated. Dez goes for the Ramatra. Can't quite imitate Jolton Joe's success in a bunch of punches and gets forced out of that transformation just as quickly. Annihilation online, I wouldn't be surprised to see it here, especially when Joe falls low like that. Annihilation comes out, sprints into the back line, finds Dez mid-block, Stank Badge missing as well. Hopefully it's just the one ult, but Jake pops overclock. I don't know why.
They didn't need it? Maybe they were afraid that if they lost that, it would get out of their hands too much, in which, to be fair, with it being pushed, if they lose that fight, Barricade probably gets to about the 80-meter mark, and maybe you're thinking that way, so I don't blame them, but definitely an ult they would want back.
Yeah, an ultimate that really might come in handy for this approach. Transcendence from Stank Badge. Joey Baloney drops the beat, and for just a few blissful seconds, everybody is invincible. Pulse ball online from Andrew goes into the backline. Flank could be huge, but they don't want to worry about that Suzu yet. Found Shin without it. Gonna go 1-1 against Jake. Has to recall low onto the ground. Pulse bomb out from the side of Sleepy Bear, excuse me. Can't find anything. Joe traded out for Dez. Here's a minefield from Tomato Lord. Another ult they may not have needed, but one that'll certainly help them secure a continuation of this lead.
Can at least try and trigger the forward spawns yet again, and this dive is just going to stall like Kirby. A little extra tactical crouches there from Andrew, just, you know, be like, hey, I'm dodging those invisible bullets, but UTA, I think they've truly settled in now. They're playing maps with the Wrecking Ball either does work extremely well or they're at least making it work. And they've already forced St. John's to the Orisa for the first time today. Just trying with those extra stuns, trying to deal with Tomato Lord more efficiently.
Yeah, here comes the Battle Cattle, trying to restabilize the equation against the side of UT Arlington. I think it makes a lot of sense. A lot of things that are used by Orisa can counter a wrecking ball pretty effectively. One thing you can't counter is an already stuck pulse bomb. You can try to catch it out of the air with a javelin spin, but when that's on cooldown, Andrew sees the time to strike. UT Arlington, another second team kill against the side of St. John's. It's crazy. Arlington, I gave them a hard time at the beginning. This team, not notorious for success on push maps, but clearly they have prepared for this eventuality.
I think, again, it's maybe the Marquette syndrome. We want to start saying
sure,
that, like,
yeah.
Wrecking Ball is definitely a playable hero now with all the buffs that he got, and maybe this is just the meta UTA where we're waiting to fall in their lap and try and go back into that top 3 conversation.
It took a while, but I'm such a firm believer of better late than never, and it's going to be never here for St. John's unless they can turn things around. UTA, that was almost shocking to believe at this point they lost that first map because they are dominating St. John's in this matchup. Nez goes deep into the back line, obliterates Joy Baloney's shield, and now Joy Baloney falls as well. Here's that focusing beam. Kiri Bree gone. Jolton Joe falls as well. UT Arlington has already hit triple digits, and they're looking to stack that up even further.
They're just wanting to finish this off right now. They have the duplicate as well, both support ults. It'll have to be a huge ultimate here from Jake if they want to at least try and stay in this map.
Yeah, this ultimate needs to be colossal. Jake made it work back in map number 1, but it's not about map number 1 anymore. It's about what can get done in map number 3 like that. Jake takes Andrew down. Pulse bomb has to stay into the pocket of UT Arlington for the time being with only 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. St. John's has a huge task ahead of them to try and win this out. Transformation onto the Orisa. Javelin's going to be missed. The spin still online. Wants to rush down Jolton Joe, and they're going to be able to do so, but they can't find the Elin. Finally, maybe Terra Surge is huge, but with little to no follow-up, they just can't collapse it fast enough. Jake buries the bullet into Dez. Shing missing as well, and as Tomato Lord is the last standing member, St. John's finally comes back to life. A third of the game still at hand.
I would say it's roughly enough time. They can still lose a fight maybe or 2 and have a chance to bring this back, but when it's an 80-meter lead, it is a rough way to get back. You still have not got that tick yet as well, so St. John's needing to start it off on the right foot here with at least this fight win to at least avoid disaster.
They definitely want to avoid disaster, and that's not a great way to start things off. At least it's a DPS trade. Another one comes through, but Joey Baloney has fallen nano online, I assume, onto the side of Jake. That overclock comes to a close. UT Arlington gets out of dodge. They run to tuck tail, desperate to keep each other alive, but Stank Badge just can't make it out. That's a stagger. That is really going to hurt Arlington's next approach on this point. It's exactly what St. John's needed for any hope of success.
Yeah, Nano goes on to Jolton Joe just to make sure they can at least try and get one of those staggers, and it does do the job, able to pick off one. And now trying to deal with Tomato Lord with Jolton Joe in a little bit of a pickle.
Jolton Joe gonna be falling low, gets back online to the rest of the team. Not close behind, all back in the spawn room. St. John's, the beginning of their doom. 2 minutes remaining. This is gonna be a tough one, Salty. They've got a lot of ults, but you know, ults win you one fight, not the 5 you're gonna need to flip this map in the next 2 minutes.
That was the worst case scenario, I think, for St. John's. Hey, that fight takes a whole minute off of the clock and you lose it. Like, at least if you win it, you can at least start getting that buy relatively close to the checkpoint, and you can start building momentum from there. But with that fight loss, you have to play a perfect game from here on out.
It needs to be a truly flawless game, and that's not something any player wants to consider. Dez already obliterates St. John's. Over half of them now gone as a 3-piece from Dez. Sleepy Bear taken out by Stank Badge. Wow, supportal combat happening in the back line. This might be a complete and total cap with only 70 seconds left on the board.
It potentially will be Kirby on that right side. They get power driven up. Yeah, they will not live very long as Dez is on an absolute tear and able to pick off a few, and it will be UTA the advantage going over to Shambali. What a turnaround we have seen from them over these last 2 maps.
Just an absolute rampage from the squadron of UTA. They lost 1 map and they were like, hey, that kind of sucks. Let's never do that again. And clearly they do not want to. Stank Badge, I'm not surprised to see this play in the game. It's got to be that supportal combat I was talking about earlier. I cannot believe the aggression we saw from the squad of UTA. This is exactly what I wanted, Salty. I said I want to see the UTA who wasn't afraid of a fight in the wings, and clearly they are not afraid of the fight. They're the one throwing the starting punch. flawless through and through. They've got one map left to try and prove themselves on this equation, and maybe we go to map 5, but if UTA plays even 10% of that, I think map 4 is where we end tonight.
I have a feeling. I will say Shambali is a very narrow map to where hit scans have a lot of fun, especially on the defensive side, because it is legit. You are going uphill the entire map if you were pushing that card. So if Jake can get back to where he was on map 1 on the Soldier, and then I think there's a chance here for St. John's. But we'll kind of have to wait and see and how they want to go at it. Because do you try and run the Ramatra again? Do you try and shift over to the Sigma? Because no matter what, I think, again, UTA should at least start with the Wrecking Ball. Unless they have a set comp ready for Shambali, which would make sense. You might as well just try and run it, because there's nothing St. John's has been able to do over the last hour to really do anything about it.
I think I'd like to see the Jolton Joe Ramatra again. Very strong, very powerful. I'd like to see Jake back on the Sojourn again. That's something we saw. That's something we complimented a lot. I truly would not mind seeing again. The rest of it, though, is really up in the air for a myriad of reasons, and it's going to be up to the players on what they want to bring out. It's a close quarters combat situation, and Sojourn thrives in kind of mid to long range. Close quarters can be a spot in which she might fumble the bag a little bit, so we're going to have to keep a close eye on the performance of Jake in particular, kind of deadlift St. John's through this equation. Hopefully Ramatra can get some early picks, help St. John's find the advantage they want and run away with it, but there's a very real chance we only go to map 4 here.
Yeah, especially with the way the Mavericks are playing right now. Like, this is the UTA that we're used to seeing all the time.
Yes.
Because it was not there last week. Delaware had their way with them every single map. And it seemed like UTA were a little bit slow out of the gates. And even tonight, they were a little slow out of the gates. They lose map 1, especially, you know, Gardens was not close by any means. It was, what, 100 to 20? I think 100 to 17. So it's not like they had the greatest start tonight. But once they got settled in over on Paraiso on that defense, it was like, okay, we're here now. Like, we're here and we're ready to play. And it's always been St. John's now on the back foot since.
St. John's, definitely not the type of team to often be on the back foot. They are a team to take a lead and run with it, to thrive with it, as we saw back on Lijiang Tower, a map they were clearly comfortable with. But this team, you know, a lot of new players coming in over these last couple of years, a lot of rotations, a lot of swaps happening, a lot of graduations, and it's been a long journey for them to make it this far, but they are looking to find a lot of great success in this matchup. Just against UT Arlington, take it to a map 5. Even if you lose, you stood amongst the greatest and you were able to walk away in a close one. But there's a very real chance, like I said, a 3-1 just around the corner. It all depends on how this first half goes. I don't know who's on offense or defense, but I know no matter who it is, it depends on how far the card makes it, on how possible the win condition for the opposing side is. If it's another full hold like we saw back on Paraiso, then we're done-so here. I think it could be a clean cut, send us home. But if it gets all the way to third point, there's always that possibility of overtime, so on and so forth. There's so many worlds right now, Salty, so many timelines to be seen, and it all falls onto St. John's performance in this opening fight, these opening couple of fights.
And I'm very curious to see where teams decide to hold on this map. Because again, it's the first time we've seen it in the competitive pool, at least for EGFC. We didn't get to see it back in the fall split. So I'm kind of curious to see how teams want to handle this map, especially this first phase. Teams get held in first phase more than they do any other phase in this map. It is very common to get held on it, especially on the second corner or the very end. It's almost like the Circle Royale syndrome, right? Because they have that high ground right above point. Hit scans and supports can chill up there without feeling pressure. The rest can stay down by point and contest. So I'm very curious to see how this attack goes, because again, it's the first time we've seen it tonight. I think many games tonight across the streams have gone only to 3 maps. So I'm very curious to see what these teams want to pull on out, especially because you can hold, well, maybe not close like you would on Havana, but you can hold on the back high ground. You can hold back corner. You can hold in that weird little post area instead of holding high ground. There's so many areas where you can hold, and it works because there's only really 2 ways you can go at this if you're attack: right down the middle or through that right side lane through the building.
Again, I'm not in love with what we're seeing, I'm going to be honest. I think UT Arlington going for the Wrecking Ball comp again, it's worked really well. It makes a lot of sense, but I do think Ball is going to struggle a little bit on the opening point of this map. It's just not a place you comfortably want to be on the Wrecking Ball, and it's close quarters. I feel like we're going to see a lot of knocking, a lot of bumping into things we're not trying to bump into, and that could definitely work against them. St. John's University, though, I want to see Joan Ramatra, even Reinhardt, if I'm being honest, but they have consistently been losing the ball matchup against Tomato Lord. The same goes for Jake versus Andrew in the Tracer matchup. On Sojourn, Jake bodies. On Cassidy, back on stage 1, Jake was cleaning house, but for some reason, they really just want to try this Tracer again, and I'm not sure it's going to be the answer to the equation. Kiribri, the wild card here, locking the Ana. Stank Badge is Zen, always an unusual choice to me.
I don't mind the Zen pick, especially with it being the Tracer Echo, just because you have Orb basically on either ball or Tracer 24/7, and you get the results like that, but too bad that both backlines are dead.
Yeah,
there's no supports in play.
Yeah, absolutely no supports in play. All 4 members going to be falling. And on the bright side, St. John's has an incredible spawn advantage, so they're going to be able to regroup as a full 5. They took the supports out of the equation. It looks like the rest of the team might not be far behind either. 4 members down. Andrew, the only one to make it out, and they don't even do so. It was just a delay of the inevitable. Jolton Joe starting very strong on the Wrecking Ball. This is what I've been wanting to see. They've been losing the matchup a lot to Tomato Lord, but Joe goes to show they are not here to mess around. St. John's wants to take us to that map number 5.
And I'm curious to see, because Jake and Sleepy Bear have swapped here. Sleepy Bear was on the Tracer for the most part, maps 2 and 3. This time around, they're on the Echo, Jake over on the Tracer, and at least so far, Jake's Tracer seems to be having just a little bit more of an impact.
Well, speaking of impact, Dez gets to have, unfortunately, none in the second fight. Stank Badge falls to that focus beam as well. Joey Baloney keeping Kiribri alive. I really like the rotation we're seeing there. It's going to be a Bionade as well. No stun from the shield bash anymore, but the whip shot can do a lot of damage. I don't like that the Brig woke up the Wrecking Ball there, but luckily enough, the team was around the corner to keep it up and running. Almost half the time bank gone. They're very close to finding their purchase here on this first point cap. UT Arlington have not been able to answer appropriately.
Jolton Joe maybe getting this a little testy up there, trying to stall for time a little bit, but UTA should be able to get back into this, but they know support's not there yet. About to drop.
Joe about to fall into a 2v1, at least knocked him out of the low ground. A very deep minefield works wonders for UT Arlington. It's a 1-1 trade. Losing the Brig is much more disastrous than losing a Tracer. Sleepy Bear falls as well, and Jolton Joe's minefield does not end up, I think, where they wanted it to be. I'm not sure if that was just to box out the supports or if that was supposed to be a little more on point, but I do know St. John's thanking their lucky stars that somehow this is still working. They're still finding the eliminations they need, and they don't want to use Nano, but I don't think they'd be afraid to keep that Wrecking Ball up and running.
No, I don't think they're afraid to use it whatsoever. They're looking for it right now. Sleep at least goes in, and this is slowly turning more and more into a fight that St. John's should be able to pull on out.
St. John's gonna be losing 2 members back-to-back, though, and with UT Arlington having a technical spawn advantage, it becomes that much harder to do much of anything. Stank Badge, popping Transcendence is super weird, but...
And Rally.
Oh, and...
Rally was used extremely late.
Huh.
I wonder if that was a fat finger. I genuinely think
just
the Rally was a fat
finger. A terrible lack of communication, maybe. Maybe there was just kind of somebody was calling, okay, I'm low, and they both went to say it. I truly don't know what happened there, Salty, but I do know that those ults were going to be big, and in playing your defense, there's a Nano, there's going to be a Transformation, a Minefield. Like, this is going to be really hard to win, especially without Transcendence.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a miscommunication or a misclick, whatever the mistake was, has a very large impact on this, as at least for them, it seems like they have a decent foothold on this fight itself. St. John's were kind of just poking away to see if they can create an opening, and they eventually do, but they're probably going to wait for at least Jake to come back. It'll be faster for them to come back than it will be for Stank Badge on the opposing side.
Yeah, they'll be able to return with the full 5 around the corner. Tomato Lord trying to get a minefield, wants to pop it on the corner. Dez committing a transformation this early is also weird to me. You lose it all through the minefield. You're lucky to live 28 HP, and you don't. Sleepy Bear takes him down. Dez falls. Stank Badge might be returning, but possibly too late for the fight to really change up here. St. John's, a lot of ultimates in the pocket. Tomato Lord had that minefield at the ready. Can it be as big as they needed? Supports falling out on both sides. Stank Badge missing nothing to heal the remaining 3 members of UT Arlington. Asleep on Tomato Lord. Tries to get through. Might be able to take down Joey. Jake knocks backwards into the minefield as well, and into the Tomato Lord diff. UTA with the full hold on first point. Incredible Jolton Joe just delaying the inevitable, and I gotta say, my hat off to Tomato Lord. Welcome back, my friend. I'm sure he's over the moon. We are seeing a Wrecking Ball comp, a Wrecking Ball meta once again.
Oh, 1000%. I think the fact that the chemistry with them, Dez and Andrew, is so clean as well. Like, no matter what, every single pilot drive, they're both on that same target. It seemed like, especially for St. John's, Joey Baloney was just never alive. Like, they were always getting dove, always getting focused. Kiribri tried to keep them up, but she wasn't even able to keep them up with the darts, with the nades as well. And again, the final corner, Shambali bites again. Nobody seems to be able to really crack the code on this unless you really get a great snowball going.
Yeah.
And UTA now have a pretty clear mission, 102 meters. You win the map, you win the series, and you're able to improve to 8-2 on the season, which I think would still put them top 3, only behind Delaware and Hawaii.
Sure, that completely checks out. I think that makes sense to be behind Delaware and Hawaii. This is so unbelievably tough, and the pattern kind of continues throughout like any escort map. We see the same thing happening over on Hollywood, same thing happening over on Havana, where these cards just simply cannot move fast enough past the first point. If we're going to be seeing a hold, it's most likely on that first point. It's just incredibly damaging against St. John's. They did so much right, but unfortunately they did not have the survivability, the longevity to keep themselves up and running when UT Arlington had enough team focus to melt down each and every one of them one at a time. 2-1 on the board, 102 meters to set the difference. Can UT Arlington send this home right here, right now?
We'll have to wait and see UCA rolling on out. They're running the same thing. Why would you change? Like, they are playing extremely well so far. And the dive already coming in from Jordan Jones, Sleepy Bear. Sleepy Bear does pay their life. And again, it's the same thing that happened for St. John's during their attack. The defense gets a little over aggressive. They get punished. And all of a sudden, the door opens up for a very early fight win.
Joey Baloney going to be the first to bite the dust, unfortunately. And poor Kiribri, she's got nowhere to run either. The melee from Dez puts it down. Both supports missing. And UT Arlington having someone on cart right now is critical. They're going to have 2 back there as they clean up the remaining members of St. John's. They should get this first corner for free and about a minute faster than St. John's was able to earlier.
Which will be a huge difference, them having all 3 on cart as well. Get around the corner, begin this final straight. And they'll already be roughly about 70 meters on the way. Dang. By the time this next fight even starts.
Not really close to any ultimates yet, but the ones they are near are pretty close to farming. The Echo complete, just sacrificial trade in the air. Knocks us down to a 4v4. Stank falls. Discord is great against Wrecking Ball, yes, but your survivability is 0. And it makes it so hard for your team to win out situations just like this. Kiribri and Shing are gone. Joey Baloney falls. Andrew gives their life for it, but I'd say that's worth it. The cart now only 25-ish meters away from being able to find it. UT Arlington gets stalled out once. Plenty of time to try again. 2.5 minutes, but St. John's, with the ults in their arsenal, Salty, there is a chance they full hold this.
They definitely could, because again, this is a very defensive-sided point. So it's definitely a doable task here for St. John's. It seems like each brig is getting dove 24/7,
yeah.
From Shing getting dove and dying all the way to Joey Baloney. So I have a feeling the brig's not going to have the greatest time. All 3 sticking around.
Not going to be able to find much, though. Jenkins Discord, 3 HP, blinks back into the Mega. Thank goodness it was there for him. Doesn't have recall online either. Can't get away fast enough. Gets healed up by the rest of the squad and wants to move into the fight. Farming another pulse bomb. Jolton Joe gone. UTA losing or finding a tank elimination like that is critical with a rally in their pocket. Oh, man, it's the pile driver that sends Sleepy Bear into the great beyond. Joey Baloney goes down, and this has to be the closing equation against St. John's University. A 3K right now from Tomato Lord. Completely changing the game all over again. I will always enjoy watching Tomato Lord on that wrecking ball, and I'm stoked we're going to get to see more of it this season. That's a 3-1 victory for UT Arlington, which should, we believe, bump them into 3rd place on the podium here this season so far.
A lot of it is to this man right here.
Without a doubt, almost all of it.
A lot tonight, but it's his meta. Like, he is the
no way he's sleeping.
Wrecking ball, he's sleeping
for most of the play of the game. Homie is taking a nap.
Boy, able to get a few minefield kills, able to get the... Wow. Just well done, Tomato Lord. I will say there's a lot of notes to be taken here for your St. John's, because you looked decent at times.
Yeah.
This may just be like, hey, maybe we didn't read the meta well enough going in. Which, granted, they had 2 days, so it's not like, you know, there was a bunch of time for them to try and read what this meta was going to be. But I think this next week will be really important to see kind of how they develop. I want to see them play next week a lot better. And if they do, then I think their season is not where they can't save it yet, at least for the goals that they have, because they obviously want podium.
Yeah,
you know, it's the thing St. John's is definitely capable of. We've seen it time to time. They've only lost to Delaware, who's probably one of the best teams, if not the best team this series in this season, and now UTA. So it's not like they're losing to the teams like Marquette and Villanova. Right. But definitely some work to do.
Work to be done, no doubt about it, but we'll hopefully see St. John's next week. We are going to jump into an interview with a member from UT Arlington in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you right back here. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back just one more time here tonight at the EGFC Overwatch. I am Septilence, joined by Twin Salty, and this time Andrew with the rest of the UTA Overwatch squad behind him. So Andrew, I definitely want to ask, coming into this new split, I believe you guys had some kind of roster changes, some role swaps maybe, and it was a little bumpy last week against Delaware. So losing map number 1, can you kind of walk us through what the mental was maybe like in that moment, and how you guys were able to come back so dominantly for the rest of the series?
I guess after map 1, I don't know, I guess for me personally, flashbacks of last week, so we knew we didn't want that to happen again, and we knew we had to get it right, and we had confidence in what we were playing, and the maps to follow. We just made some simple mistakes on map 1 that led to that loss, but for sure, we were just confident in what we were playing and who we were playing against, and we knew we could win that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely showed, and especially, we're 2 days after the Season 3 meta drops. So how are you guys feeling about, the balance change and where your team kind of fits in this soon-to-be defined meta?
Yeah, other than Tomato Lord having the time of his life,
other than
course,
Tomato Lord
how do the rest of you feel?
Well, this patch was honestly just a buff to UTA Overwatch, because what we were gonna play is what we were gonna play. We weren't going to let whatever the quote-unquote meta was define who we are, because we just feel that if we just play what we're good at, what we're comfortable on, that we can beat anybody.
Unanimous head nod kills me. I can't.
Killing us back here, seeing the nodding every time you're saying something.
At least you're all on the same page,
how
right?
How are the vibes feeling with this team? Because obviously, again, as Septilence said, a few new members. Obviously, Tiki is away. Now, what are the feelings kind of with just the team chemistry going into the rest of the split?
It's rough at first. It is rough with any new team at first. But definitely far more recently, we've been getting it together and really working on our comp structure and who we are as not just a team, but as friends. That's priority number 1, honestly. Besides, no matter how we play in any game, the most important part is that we're having fun and we're all close and we're friends.
Yeah, absolutely. You love to hear it. Just one more question for you, Andrew, and then we'll let you all head out and do whatever you'd like to do with the rest of this beautiful Thursday night. Is there anybody you'd like to give just a thank you or a shout out to while you're here with us?
Thank you to all these guys back here, for sure. That was a team effort, and this was a team game. That was the number 1 thing we had to fix, losing some players. We have to win as a team, always. Thank you to that guy. That's Noah. That's our esports director. He's pretty cool sometimes, I guess. Yeah.
You love to hear it. Well, hey,
he made all this possible. He made the room possible. This is all Noah, so we appreciate him.
Well, hey, huge congrats to all y'all for the win, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
And with that, folks, we are going to go ahead and call it a night here at the EGFC Overwatch. It has been a blast hanging out with all of you this evening, but all good things must come to an end. So thank you to all 4 teams coming out tonight. Huge shout out Aeon, producer/observer, making all of this possible, and of course, all of you for watching. Check your posture, drink some water, don't forget to love each other.